today. We're going to break down the Nigerian's education system, and this will include how schools are set up, who runs them, the laws guiding them, the problems nobody wants to talk about, and most importantly, how can we potentially make it better. And now, this is not a suggestion to anybody, but these are just my opinions.
Hey, do this thug style, man, thug style. When this whole beat drop, we just gonna run into him, man. It's all good.
So let's start with the basics. What does it take to actually start a school in Nigeria? If you want to open a kindergarten, primary, or secondary school, step one is registering the company with the Corporate Affairs Commission, the CAC. You basically tell the government, hey, I'm opening a school. It is not just a backyard for little rugrats. After that, state education authorities come in, and those guys don't play. They're going to check everything. They'll check if your classrooms are safe. They'll check whether you have basic amenities like toilets, playgrounds, libraries. Then they'll check the qualification of your teachers or potential teachers, or your qualification system to hire those teachers. And down to things like, whether you initially have safety precautions in place like fire extinguishers and huddle points in case of an emergency. But universities are a whole different beast. To start a private university, you apply to the National Universities Commission, the NUC, and the requirements are massive. They want you to prove that you have at least 200 million in funding, and most likely, if you come with 200 million, you're not going to get approved. So, this 200 million is barely, 200 million is barely like $100,000. So, you're going to need way more than that. So, but in the rule books, it says 200 million. So, 200 million in funding to set aside 100 hectares of land for the campus and a 25-year master plan. So meaning you have planned how the school is going to run and move and develop over the next 25 years. This plan isn't just, I want to open a uni on side money. It's a serious business. So people who go into this, as you see in terms of for example, some popular private unis at the Babcock University, which is it was set up by the Latter-day Saints or the Seventh-day Adventists, one of those two groups. I'm quoting on that. And then there's the Covenant University, which I think is set up by the church, the Redeemed Church. There's a whole bunch of them. I can't really bring them to mind now, but those two are like up there on the list of popular private universities in Nigeria. So that's a bit of an intro to just let you guys know what give you guys a foundation on how this thing works in Nigeria. So you gotta make sure you have the funds in place for university and for basically across the board. But the inspection will be done. They need to see your plan. Your plan needs to be workable. All of that. Yada yada yada. So we're gonna go to step 2 now, and I'll, as usual, give you guys a bit of music in between because it's about to get grind.
Run into him, man. It's all good. I never had much, lunch. Ran with the bad bunch, little skinny kids sneaking weed in my bag lunch. And off the junior high, we was just getting by. And drive-bys, ride my homies of the young lives. I never did cry, and even though I had pain in my heart, I was hopeless from the start. They couldn't tell me nothing, they all tried to help me. The marijuana had my mind gone.
So let's talk about who runs the school, who runs Nigerian schools. And by who runs, I mean the organizations or the agencies that are in charge of administrating the entire process. At the basic level, we've got the UBEC, that's the Universal Basic Education Commission. They fund and guide primary and junior secondary school education, but it's really up to the states and local governments to run them. So they fund it and do things like administer curriculum and stuff like that. But it's really the states, or most importantly the local governments, that are that do the day-to-day stuff, right? For exams, we've got the WAEC and NECO for secondary school certificates, and JAM for university entry. At the tertiary level, that's the universities, the NUC, which I mentioned earlier, the National Universities Commission, oversees universities. MBTE regulates polytechnics, and NCCE handles teacher training colleges. And to make sure teachers aren't just anyone with chalk and vibes, that's very, very important, because I had a lot of chalk and vibe teachers. There's the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, TRCN. Every teacher is supposed to be registered there. Now, this sounds very organized, right? Lots of agencies, lots of acronyms. We love our acronyms. The problem is, as we'll see going forward, money and enforcement doesn't always match the structure.
Nothing, they all tried to help me. The marijuana had my mind gone, it wasn't healthy. I dropped places, cold cases, what a ill, yeah. I felt the pain and the brain, but I'm still here. Never did like the police, let the whole world know. Now it gets no peace, cause they're chasing me down and facing me now. What do I do? These things that a thug goes through, and still I rise to keep your head up and make your mind strong.
So we'll talk about the laws on paper. That's the laws we have regarding education versus the reality of what Nigerians face when it comes to public education. Now, we do have some solid laws on paper. The Universal Basic Education Act of 2004, pretty much summary of it says education from primary to junior secondary is free and compulsory. The Constitution also lists education as a right. But if we're being honest, when was the last time you saw anything in Nigeria work just because it was written down? I can't remember. So in reality, parents are paying an arm, a leg, and probably their left ass cheek as well, if it comes down to it. And I do commend Nigerian parents for that. It's as someone who lived 10 years in Canada, had the diaspora experience, I can tell you now, a lot of our people, a lot of diasporans, it's an advantage because we go over there and we do 4 years of university, maybe 4 years of college, zero debt when you come out. At least for those who their parents can afford it. And even for those who their parents can't afford it, they get a job, they get 2 jobs, work their ass off during the summer months, and they pay off their tuition, which is usually, if you're lucky, will be anywhere between 2 to 5 times what the students from the country are paying, right? That's if you're lucky. If you're not, and you're in a really big, quote unquote, well regarded school, you could be paying as much as 10 times more. So big up you guys, Nigerian parents. You guys come through for us on that one. But like I was saying earlier, in reality, parents are the ones actually covering this cost. Even though the law says it should be free, they are the ones paying PTA levies, they are buying uniforms, they are covering exam fees. And I have a brother right now. My baby brother is currently going to. He just did his GS3 exam to get into SS1. So I know, like every other day is a fee for something else, and it is a private school. Don't get me wrong. So yes, we're gonna pay, but we have friends in public schools, and it's not any different, right? So and it feels more like the free education is free in theory. Like, oh, you know that thing where they say like it's not the gift that matters, it's the intention. Nah, no. It's the it's the action that matters. Your intention don't mean shit when something that should be free, I'm actually paying through my nose for it. So it's a juxtaposition. And now here's the kicker. Nigerian government spending on education is just 0.35% of the GDP. I'm gonna say that again. Nigerian government spending on education is less than 0.5% of our country's GDP. 0.5%. This is even based on the fact that UNESCO recommends 4 to 6% of our GDP be spent on education. Places in Europe and North America, Canada, England, Germany, Netherlands, they all spend close to 5 to 7% of their GDP on education. I'm talking everything up until the end of high school is free, completely free. That's uniforms, that's school buses, that's school lunches, that's meals for the kids, that's teacher salaries, that's all these things. So all you need to do is wake your child up in the morning, get them dressed, feed them breakfast, and make sure they've done their assignments and get them to the bus stop. Everything else is taken care of. And if you're a citizen in these countries that I mentioned, well, the European countries really, most of your university tuition is also taken care of, right? So it's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? We are a country with one of the fastest growing populations, and our government is spending less than 0.5%, 0.35% of our GDP on education. Okay, so it's a juxtaposition. Like I said in the video of I think it was towards the end of the video of the first video, the Netflix in Nollywood video. I don't like putting things in the hands of the Nigerian government because they are the greediest set of bumcons I've ever seen in my life, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon because I don't want to go on a rant about the Nigerian government. That's not what it's about. So we'll move on to the next section, and we'll talk about why university education, especially university education, feels outdated. And it's going to be a bit of a longer section because we're going to progressively keep talking about the failures of the educational system. So I'll play some music for you guys. Switch up the vibe a bit. And we'll get back to it.
Keep your head up and make your mind strong. It's a struggle every day, but you gotta hold on.
So we're gonna talk about the general failings of our system. I I want to show you guys that these things, like these topics, really come from heart. Um, like I said when this channel started, when I do these topics, when I'm talking about these things, there are things that I've been ruminating about in my mind. There are things I've had conversations with my family about, with my friends about, with my girlfriends, my loved ones about, because I promise you, I pray every day that I hope I don't eventually make it and forget this is how it feels to be a regular person. Because it will be sad, number one, but I just have like half of all the things I want to do in life is to make life for the better for the everyday regular person. So we're gonna get into the topic, and yeah, we talk about Nigerian universities. It's struggling. It really is struggling. Like there's a reason why Nigerians who get hired abroad, they have to be either hyper specialized, right? Or they are coming from an industry that has already trained them in what they need to do. Now, what do I mean by this? The petroleum engineer, when you get hired from a Nigerian university, most likely your company is going to employ you. So by the time you get that offer for with Shell or Mobile or Aramco, they're already sure that you know how to work in that industry. So you're not necessarily being hired because of your university. You're being hired because of your experience. Like, oh, this guy already worked. So that's kind of really it. I mean, my sister just graduated from medical school, right? And medicine actually does pretty well. So maybe it might not be a good example, but because they kind of have no choice. With the nature of medicine, you need to keep updating yourself, staying ahead of the curve and stuff like that. But it's still a lot of urgency. Like it's a lot of stuff that they still are expected to go through for themselves, right? Like it's a lot of train yourself kind of mentality, and that's fine. I mean, not fine, but that's really good because you need that resilience as a doctor. But what I'm trying to say basically is libraries are full of outdated textbooks. Labs, usually, if you're going to a private uni or a really good public university, you're not getting really well equipped laboratories. Power cuts, Jesus. Power cuts are just constant. Lecturers are often underpaid or not even paid at all for months at a time. And that's why strikes by ASU, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, are almost a yearly tradition. Like at this point, you can use it to mark the seasons of the Nigerian state of affairs. And the curriculum in many courses hasn't been revised in decades. Imagine studying computer science and your main textbook is older than Facebook, or studying law with materials that don't cover today's digital crimes. Meanwhile, in North America and Europe, universities update syllabi every few years, bring in guest lecturers from industry, and give students internships that actually prepare them for jobs. Here, too many graduates leave school only to realize they are not employable in the modern economy, right? And it's a heartbreak. It's a heartbreak because we are being told every time, go to school, finish school, get a good job, settle down, start a family for those who are interested in family, or you start a business for those who are interested in business. But when you finish school, because the process is not completely symbolic, it's a heartbreak because you realize now you gotta go do masters. Now you have to go and hustle to get to network so that you can get that job because you never went for an internship. So you really don't have any practical experience in the industry that you're applying for. Heartbreaking. And then we'll leave the university now. We talk about special needs that this is prevalent at every level. We don't accommodate enough for children with special needs, especially in the nursery to secondary school uh, section of the education system. Like kids with disabilities, I'm talking physical, talking mental disabilities, they are really being left behind. The law actually says every child should have access to education. And Nigeria even passed a Disability Act in 2019. That was like what 6 years ago. That talks about inclusive schools. But the reality is, we get reports from agencies and organizations like UNESCO saying only a small number of special schools exist, and they are mostly private. So, if a child is blind, deaf, or has learning challenges, there's a high chance they will never get the education they deserve. Contrast that with many schools in Europe or North America, where classrooms often have braille books, sign language interpreters, and support teachers trained for inclusivity. Here, parents of special needs kids are usually left to fend for themselves, either pay high fees at private special schools or the child doesn't get to go to school at all. So it's like a 0 or 100. The point of government is to make sure we should have the option at every range. Yes. I really don't want to get into the rant. I don't think I'll be able to avoid it though, because this whole thing is gonna get me salty enough at some point, and I will go into that rant. So it's either you pay high fees at the private special schools, or your child doesn't go to school, and that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. If you think, oh, disabled kids don't deserve all that attention, go and read on this scientist Stephen Hawking. If you really think kids who are disabled don't need to also participate in the education system, go and read about Stephen Hawking. That guy is the reason why the field of physics has been advanced to the level it's been advanced to today. If he grew up in Nigeria, the world would not have had this thing for Stephen Hawking. So there you go. If you need more examples, we can get more examples, but he's the most popular one. He's the most popular one, and his contributions have been lauded. He is well known in that area of science. Right? So I don't want to hear all that, oh no. Inclusivity serves everybody. Everyone. Now we'll go to cost and access. Let's talk money. Country's inflation is currently at 24%. Probably even more. I don't really follow that stuff like that. It takes me through the cycle of depression and rage. So I tend not to, I follow it like passive. But this means schools are paying more for fuel to run generators, paying more to buy imported textbooks, and just paying more in general for everything. And because government schools are underfunded, parents are getting the bills. The result? It means millions of kids never make it into the classroom. UNICEF estimates that about 10.5 million Nigerian kids aged between 5 to 14 are out of school. That's the highest number in the world. One out of every five out of school kids worldwide is Nigerian. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. 20% of all kids that are out of school in the world, in a planet of 7 billion people, and the gender gap is huge. It's another thing I wanted to address. We still have so many norms, like especially in the northern states, less than half of the girls go to primary school. Security reasons, of course, Boko Haram and their junior and senior brothers. Security issues, cultural factors, their backward Sharia law culture. I don't like to shit on people's culture, but if it means half of your kids are not going to be getting the education they deserve, I'm gonna shit on it a little bit. Cultural factors and poverty all play a role. Meanwhile, boys also prepare to work and support their families. Either way, it's a cycle that keeps communities trapped in poverty. And I think the government does that on purpose. I think the government in the north, they do that on purpose. Because the easiest way to manipulate people to vote for you is when they do not know what they should be getting from their government. When someone doesn't know better, they can't do better. So we leave it at that. Next one is the fact that we seem to be hyper obsessed with STEM. Like our focus, it's already bad enough the funding is low, it's already bad enough the facilities are poor, but then the little funding that is available, the little facilities that are available focus on just STEM kids. Alright, STEM subjects, sorry. So we're talking, and STEM, what does STEM mean? Science, technology, engineering, and medicine. These fields dominate enrollments at universities. Engineering and health sciences top the charts, while arts, humanities, and social science are shrinking. And sure, STEM is important. I am like no one will say STEM is not important. We do need doctors, we need engineers and tech experts. But what about storytellers, artists, the social scientists who analyze our society? Look at when Adolf and his Nazi boys were taking over Europe. Do you think they only took the scientists? Nah, they took the art. They put how much art they stole across the continent. They took art. They didn't just take rocket scientists and doctors and physicians. They took artists. They took artwork. They took movies, books. Like, these things matter. Like, everything in life is about balance. Like, you can't. Yeah, we're gonna have doctors and engineers, and most of them are gonna be Nigerian, and they are gonna make us proud. But then, who's gonna be there to tell our stories, right? Who is gonna be there to tell the story of not just our history, but the story of how we will eventually get to the promised land? Who's going to be there to potentially be the ones that will be advising the future presidents on, oh, these things that we've been doing in the past, turns out they don't really benefit population. How about we try it this way? How about we try it that way? Right? The economists, the social sciences. And this is glaring because in other countries this balance exists. That's why Silicon Valley has engineers and designers and marketers. The guy from Apple, I think his name is John Ive. I think he's resigned now. Like, the guy is an artist. Does he know how computers work? Probably. As well as Steve Wozniak or Steve Jobs? I don't think so. But guess what? He was designing them sexy shirts, and he was getting, like, there's a reason Apple products are popular abroad. Yes, they work, but they also look appealing. They look good. Like, I'm not an Apple fanboy, but the design quality is up there. So I think our education system needs to be a bit more balanced. Encourage kids who want to go into art, and it's not just about the government doing it; it's the parents as well. If your kid tells you they want to be a footballer, and you see at an age where they understand the ramifications of what that is. Encourage them. Doesn't mean they should drop out of school, no. But encourage them. Your kid says they want to be a career writer, or they want to be an actor, or they want to be a director, or they want to do economics. Encourage them. Encourage them. Like, just encourage your kids. Be parents for your kids, right? And I'm not trying to tell anybody how to parent, by the way. I don't have kids. But I'm just saying. Gender disparities. We spoke about this earlier, but I want to focus on it a little more. Education in Nigeria is mostly a story of this inequality, because only 51% of girls finish primary school compared to 59% of boys, which isn't that much better anyways. By secondary school, just 36% of girls finish, while 42% of boys do so. Again, not any better, it's a significant difference. Among the poorest households, it gets worse. Only 9% of the poorest girls ever make it to secondary school. 9%. 9%. The government has noticed there are now gender desks in every state ministry of education, and there are new roadmaps aiming at bringing 15 million out of school children back into classrooms with a focus on the girls. But the reality is, without addressing security, cultural norms, and poverty, progress will be slow. And this is the problem with Nigerian government. The problem is looking at them in the face, right? They will go and take Third Mainland Bridge, connect it to the new coastal highway, go around, and still eventually not get to the crux of the issue. Right? You want to bring 15 million out of school children back into the classroom, but you don't want to address security in the northern states. Right? You want to bring back 15 million out of school children back into the classrooms, but you don't want to start educating the population on why it will be beneficial for the individual family unit and for the country as a whole to educate our children, be them boys, be them women, to just educate our children. You want to bring back 15 million out of school children back into classrooms, but you're not going to deal with what's causing poverty. The fact that a lot of people are not able to get their hands on good paying jobs. The fact that you guys almost caught me. I was about to start going into a rant. I'll stop there. Well, you get the point of what I'm saying. So that'll be the end of this section.
Jump in the Rover and come over, tell your friends, jump in the GS3. I got the chronic by the tree.
What can be done? Or better yet, is there really any point of all of this? I really wish you guys can. I don't know. But then that's why I started this channel, because I was tired of saying I don't know. I really am tired of it. What can be done? Funding. Most people don't use funding. We need to increase the percentage spend of our budget on education. That's just inevitable. You cannot spend less than 0.5% of your GDP and then expect Nigeria no go carry last. It's not making sense. Your mathematics is not mathematical. Like, make it make sense. You want the work, put in the money. For me, that's what I'm stopping with that funding. You want the work, you want the results, put in the money. And this applies to everything in life. You want the results, put in the money. And take it as an investment. So and we need to start enforcing on these laws. If we already went as far as creating laws that will be guaranteeing free education, enforce it. But then now, don't go and now enforce law when you know you've not provided funding. No. You know you're not going to provide funding. Leave the system the way it is, because it is better than you enforcing it and getting more schools shut down. So if you know you are going to enforce it, release a staggered plan. Okay, but over the next 3 years, we want to get it from 0.35% to 2%. Another 5 years after that, you'll get it from 2% to 4%. Another 5 years after that, to you get it from 4% to maybe 5 or 6%. You will see just how much more kids will go back to school. You will see just how much more kids will go back to school. Because that funding will mean education will fully be free. That funding will mean you can now update your curriculum. That funding will mean teachers will be getting paid, so they will be willing to come in and teach with a smile on their face because they can now afford daily bread. That funding will mean your kids can the poorest families can get their kids to school, because guess what? Uniforms are already provided. You can as long as you can get your kid to the bus stop, they will get to school safe and on time. And when they are in school, even if for some weird reason they didn't eat at home, lunch will be provided for them. So you know your child will be clothed, transported, and fed. It's not just say you want to start schools and that's it. These are essential things. The child needs to be clothed because you should give them basic human decency, dignity. They need to be transported because teleportation hasn't been invented yet. So you need to move them from their homes to the school so they can actually get their education, and they need to be fed. A hungry boy is an angry boy or is a dull boy. Ain't nobody learning when their stomach is grumbling. That's just the reality of it. And don't feed them slop. Get good food in. Let them go back and take more. Modernize your curriculum, especially universities. If anything, I feel the Nigerian curriculum when it comes to primary and secondary school is a bit, I won't say ahead of the curve, but it's not, at least I don't perceive it as being behind, because even back when I was in high school, like the stuff I learned in high school, when I got to my first year of university, they were literally teaching us all over again. I was like, oh, I've done this already. Like, this is further marks. I've done that already, right? So, but the university curriculum, you guys need to work on that shit. Just work on it. Bring in consultants from universities from Europe, universities from North America. Let them sit down and make it a consistent thing. That's part of what funding will be able to do. Special needs institution, training in inclusive methods. Make it you are opening public schools. Give these schools a quota. So they have a quota of at least minimum of 10% of your school population should include kids with disabilities, and not just physical disabilities, because that's another problem in Nigeria. The things something we cannot see, we don't know how to synthesize it, we don't know how to empathize with it. So it's not just physical disabilities, it's not just the blind kid or the deaf kid or the body morphed kid. No, I'm talking the ones with slow learning. I'm talking the ones with attention deficit disorders. I'm talking the ones who are autistic. These are the kids that also need to be included in these groups. Train these teachers, pay these teachers well. Like, I don't even get the logisticals. Pay these teachers well. Are we in a... I'm really just tired. Like you don't pay your doctors well. You don't pay your teachers well. Even the guy that's just sweeping the road and you don't even pay them well. But yet all of you are buying cars and buying private jets and sending your families abroad. Whatever. Support creative courses. Balance them with arts. I think that one is simple, straightforward. We already love STEM courses. Just balance it out. Like, just balance it out. Make it easy. Right? So, yeah. Balance it out. Include vocational skills, entrepreneurship alongside the side. Open dedicated art schools. Open culinary schools. You know how many Nigerians want to be cooks? Open culinary schools, open art schools that will teach people how to properly get into the industry, what it means to play in the opera, what it means to produce music, what it means to be a singer, like what it means to be an artist. Like open art schools, open culinary schools, open schools that engage with people who are more on that art spectrum or art stream side of things. Close the gender gap. I keep telling young niggas, you underestimate your women. You think say man, I'm a man. More underestimate your women. And guess what? It's only you that is going to pay at the end of the day. Because the population is not made up of 100% men. 50% of the population is women. So when you leave them out, your country is by default only able to output at 50% capacity. And guess what? Out of all those 50% that are men, a good chunk of them will be old and retired. A good chunk of them will be too young and still be getting education, so they can't work. So you are now left with what? Let's say 60% of that 50%. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. So yeah, and leverage technology. We need to deal with this. We need to deal with poverty and ruralization is what I'll call it. Radio and TV learning in rural areas, online classrooms in urban ones, mobile apps for self-learning. Nigerian youth are tech savvy. They are all up on TikTok. They are all up on Facebook. Everybody has a smartphone. Take advantage of that. Get the education out there, however you can get it out there. Take advantage of it.
Never a good day, cause in my hood they let their AKs pump strays where the kids play. And every Halloween, check out the murder scene. Can't help but duplicate the violence seen on the screen. My homies dying before they get to see their birthdays. This is the worst days, sometimes it hurts to pray.
So to wrap this up, this will just be a quick one. It's not all doom and gloom. I just want to say that. It's not all doom and gloom. I might seem very upset with the Nigerian government, but it's not all doom and gloom. And if there's one thing I commend my people for, we are resilient as ever. We are as resilient as ever, and it will mean we, the people, we will outlast all this bullshit. And I know we will get to a stage where these things are things of the past. I believe that truly in my heart. So to wrap it up, we do have good education policies. The Universal Basic Education Act, the Disability Act, and the National Policy on Education, and the fact that the Constitution acknowledges that education is a human right. They are all there. What we are actually missing is action. Action in terms of funding, action in terms of consistent enforcement, but most importantly, funding. Because at the end of the day, every child out of school is a wasted opportunity for themselves, for their families, and for Nigeria as a whole. So let me ask you this. If you could fix one thing about the Nigerian education system, what would it be? Drop your answer in the comments. You guys should discuss. And of course, like I always say, be nice to one another. No name calling. Say your point. If you don't agree, you can say it in a nice way. If you agree, buttress that point. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and like I just said earlier, comment. So this is another Soft Chaos episode. Chaos in the Republic episode 1 to be specific, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Sometimes I look for proof. I wonder if heaven got a ghetto, and if it does, doesn't matter if you blood or you cuss. Remember how it was? The picnics and the parties and the projects, small time drinking, getting high with the Marbies. Just another knucklehead kid from the gutter. I'm dealing with the madness, raised by a single mother. I'm trying to tell you in the song, you gotta keep your head to the sky, be strong most of all.
New videos uploaded every week, so subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoy the journey.